One of the properties, it literally didn't even have any drywall.
Yeah.
They were counting it as a comp. To our property that was perfectly remodeled and like rented, and they're counting one that the back garage, that's the additional dwelling unit, was literally like the roof was falling in.
Yeah.
And we're like, how do you, like, it should almost be borderline illegal, right?
But it sold for $130K.
And it sold for $130K. We bought ours when it was in better condition when we originally bought it for $85. We bought a better deal to begin with than what they even bought. Hey, what's going on, guys and gals? Obviously, Tyler Austin here, and we got Jake Chambers, my partner on the real estate side. We're out here smoking a couple cigars. I got a LFD here. He's got a Java Mint. Java Mint. We got some Whistle Pig, one of my favorite whiskeys, and we're celebrating a win. All right. It's also a loss at the same time, so we kind of explain that a little bit. But essentially, what is it? When did we buy that property?
January of last year.
So January of 2020 then, we picked up this property from, I think it was direct mail.
Direct mail.
Yeah, it was from direct mail.
We worked about 6 months too.
A minute. It was driving for dollars and tax delinquent stacked property from REI Sift. And let's close that off. So it was a driving for dollars, tax delinquent stacked property. What we did for that is we went around and we added some properties that were in distress around new construction in a more prominent area that's up and coming in Pensacola. And the beautiful thing about this property, and also the thing that ended up being our demise, was that it has a extra dwelling unit. But it's not just an extra dwelling unit; it's actually considered multifamily, right?
Yeah, it's actually 2 units.
Yeah,
legit 2 units.
So what they did is they took the lot and they had split. Sounds like we had some ambulances. But what they were doing is we actually had a single family residence property in the front, and what he did is he parceled off the backside back in the day and added another garage with a dwelling unit above it. And then he went and got it rezoned as multifamily, which is really what was the kicker. When it was zoned multifamily, it required a different mortgage, which gets looked at differently, which Jake can talk about. And so it made the loan process absolutely ridiculous, especially because of COVID. But what we had done is we remodeled the primary home 100%. We had to do some leveling out of the floors, some foundation work. We had to do a bunch of different shit to get it actually livable. Redid the whole thing, redid the apartment beautifully, and we ended up renting them out for...
So apartment or the main home is $1,200 a month, and the apartment we just re-upped the lease for $1,000 a month. It's just over 400 square feet, and then we actually leased up one of the garage units for $100 a month for storage. So. And then we've got the other unit that we use for our own personal storage for just extra equipment we've got on a couple, flips that we've done. So
right. So
$2,300.
$2,300. It's cash flowing like crazy, right? We bought the place for $75,000 or $85,000.
80, and we paid ourselves $5,000 for the assignment.
Right. So what we actually, oh yeah, that's right. So what we did is we bought it through our holding company, and the holding company did an assignment fee to our acquisitions company in order to be able to, pay for any marketing overhead and everything else. So really our holdings company bought it for $85,000. And how much did we actually put into it rehab-wise?
We put in $65,000.
We put in $65,000. So we're all in.
Sorry, $60,000.
60.
Yeah.
So we're all in after, this whole process of the length of getting everything redone, because we've been working since December to get it refinanced, and really kind of before then to get it to the point where we could find somebody to refinance from COVID. We started working with banks, I would say, in December, but we couldn't find a bank in really most of 2020 that would actually be willing to even start working because of COVID.
It's actually not true. We started working with banks last June.
Last June?
But we actually found a bank in December.
Okay, so there you go.
The first bank.
The first bank. Of three. So we got about 165, I think, is what it showed on the docs that we ended up having to refinance. But I'm going to let Jake explain the initial appraisal and what the struggles were, and maybe some things that you need to watch out for when picking up properties that are multifamily or with PDUs.
Yeah. Hey, guys. So, and it wasn't due to anything that we didn't already know. It was just the way that we weren't familiar. We weren't we didn't realize how an appraisal company was going to look at this. So it's multifamily, but it's not commercial, right? So we did get essentially a commercial loan, but those are two different things. And that's something maybe I can talk about in a different video. That's not the point of today. But basically what we did is anything 4 units and below is valued residential, price per square foot. So we knew going into this thing, this is last year when we bought it in January before the market went crazy. But even then we were about 180 to about 190 bucks a square foot. And so we did our numbers and we said at 165, 170 we'd be all in, and we'd be at about 70% or less, right? And we actually purchased this with a private money lender, a friend of mine, and now ours, right? That financed the entire thing, the purchase plus the rehab. And so we had to pay him off, and so we were looking to get a long-term loan on it. So we said, okay, let's start the process. Well, back in June was obviously a tough time just in general due to the COVID, and banks were really tightening up. Nobody knew where things were going to go, but nobody believed that the market was going to continue to go the way it has, but it did, right? And then what happened, what hurt us after that was that banks were incentivized to do the PPP and the EIDL loans, and so those took priority over any other type of loans that were sub-$1 million, right? And so we're talking about $175,000 loans, so obviously we're well below that range because it costs them so much time and effort to do that size loan, right? So anyway, we got pushed to the back burner. We were still cash flowing, even at 12% interest on our hard money loan that we had. We were still making $1,000 a month or something.
Yeah, $1,000 a month, which is crazy, by the way.
And we could have let that go indefinitely. It's just after a certain point, we did all the we weren't paying like monthly interest only payments. It was just at the backside, which is great because we didn't have to pay anything each month. So really, during the last year, we were actually cash flowing $2,300 minus taxes, insurance, things like that. But we knew that we had to set aside that $1,200 a month to pay our investor. Anyway, so in December, kind of fast forward a little bit, we finally got a lender who said, okay, we'll play ball, right? He was actually a referral from a realtor who's also an investor that we know, and the guy got moving, right? So we were looking good. Gotta make sure this thing keeps going. So anyway, we started working that. Everything was going pretty normal, the typical underwriting, all the docs, all the LLC docs. And when you have an entity that you are holding an LLC, which is what we did, there's a little bit more stuff you got to do, and you got PFSs and things like that, personal financial statements. So, but what happened is we got a little bit into this thing. The banks and the loan officer was not talking to us, right? We weren't zero communication. We were texting them, calling them. And it would take a couple days, a week to get back to us, whatever. And then we finally got an appraisal. And the first appraisal actually was the best one now that we think about it. It came back at 185.
And real quick, it was 185. Mind you, when we bought the property, because we were accounting for it no different than we've done any other PDU in the past that wasn't zoned multifamily, we were accounting for the square footage of both properties at the proper square footage. And to put perspective into this, there's literally multiple houses that have sold, single-family residences that are old homes that were remodeled lesser than our homes that sold for over $225,000 in the last 6 months.
Yep.
But ours was appraising at 185 and below. So that's really what ultimately killed us. Because remember, you can only refinance out 70 to 80%. We'll get to that in a little bit. But
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, and so we disputed that, but both the lender and the appraisal company. I've had lenders that said no, they won't do it or push back for them, but the appraisal company literally gave us the middle finger and said fuck off, and they're not going to do it. So that was a little bit frustrating. So we kind of put them in the back burner, and I started another loan. Right. So again, we have to go through the whole underwriting process again. This loan was advertised to us as a income, so basically an asset-based loan, right? So income for the property, the cash flow should have been sufficient with just us backing and make sure our credit was good, and we had a reputable background, which we do, to make sure that the loan is good. Well, that appraisal came back in at I think 160, And we're like, we can't do that because at 168, and they were only offering 70%. We were at like 120 or 100, I forget, 120 and some change, and that's before closing. So after closing, we're at like 115. We're 165 into this thing. We're gonna have to bring a ton to the table. We were like, there's no way. So ended up finding another company, and at the end of the day, they were pretty good. The appraisal came in bad, but their hands are tied to a certain point because these guys are working. They're multi-billion-dollar private equity firm, right? So they have certain constraints that's in their operating agreement, and that they promise through their syndication to through their fund to their investors that they can only act within certain constraints. So we totally understand that. But that appraisal ended up coming in at 130 via BPO, so a broker price opinion, which if you're a realtor, that you'll learn about what BPOs are versus an actual appraisal per I forget the acronym that they use, but the state certified way appraisal goes. And typically a BPO gets you a better price because it's like I say it's about this, and you can kind of we'll just say it's this, right? So we were expecting better. Right, so we get 130, and it was crazy. So I go back and we fought, and we ended up getting up to 170. And at this point, we're just
and take that into account, right? Just think about that. For anyone who doesn't know, appraisers themselves have a variance, meaning that they can. I think in Florida it's plus or minus $80,000. They can either go below or above what actual value is based off their opinion. Just appraisers in general can do that. The BPO itself, we figured, like you said, it was going to be higher because they see, $2,300 a month in cash flow. Dude, this is an amazing, secure loan. If we were to have to take over this mortgage, we're going to make cash flow like crazy. It's not going to be a hard property to get rid of. And then they come at 130, and then they go up $40,000 higher. Yeah. And it's like, well, why is that? So just to reiterate on how crazy that is, that's why it's important to make sure that you're buying good deals, number one. And as we continue and we tell you how much we had to bring to the table and break down the actual ROI we're going to receive, you'll realize that sometimes BRRRR strategies just don't work if you don't know. And you got to be ready for that. So, good.
Yeah. And Tyler actually brought something up as far as so that's when we realized that they were going solely off of what other 2-unit properties were selling for in the market. They would not, so like we said, residential real estate is 4 units and below, which ours fit that bill, and it's price per square foot. But you can't compare a single family or a 3-unit or a 4-unit price per square foot to a 2-unit price per square foot. And so what they did is they took only 2-unit properties that had sold within the last 12 months. The problem is in downtown Pensacola, you don't sell a 2-unit property if it's making you money, because it's making tons. I mean, people are making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on multifamily units, small multis in Pensacola, right? So the only ones, and we actually walked a few of them in crap condition, and a couple other ones that had been fixed up to a moderate level, but not even that good. And that's what they were comping us with, because they were selling, but they were rented for $750, $800 bucks a month.
Nothing like we were.
Yeah, like you could see it on their historical rent, or on the using Rent-A-Meter, you could see what they recently rented for. So we're talking a 2-unit that's renting for $800 a month each at $1,600, compared to ours at $2,300 bucks a month. And actually, the main home is below market, probably about $200 now. So, but even taking that, I mean, we're talking $700 below or higher that we're making, and they're comping it, right? So on what's supposed to be an investment loan. So that was tough. So we had no choice, because nobody had sold a nice duplex or 2-unit. They were all kind of low income type stuff. And I tried to argue that point, and pretty heatedly actually, that you could see holes in the wall that had been smeared.
One of the properties, it literally didn't even have any drywall.
Yeah.
They were counting it as a comp. To our property that was perfectly remodeled and rented, and they're counting one that the back garage, that's the additional dwelling unit, was literally like the roof was falling in.
Yeah.
And we're like, how do you it should almost be borderline illegal, right? But
it sold for $130K.
And it sold for $130K. We bought ours when it was in better condition when we originally bought it for $85. We bought a better deal to begin with than what they even bought, right?
Minus the rats,
right? We end up having a few rats. So that's okay. But So basically, to summarize, for those that have been watching the whole time, right? We bought this property for $85,000, right?
Right.
This was in early 2020 that we bought the deal. Actually, was it 2019?
No, it was December. We went under contract in December of 19.
December of
we
19.
Closed in January, end of January because of the loan agreement.
Yeah, end of January. But we went under contract, I think, earlier than that. No, we went under contract early. We sent the agreement out like
That's
4
right.
months prior.
That's right.
And the guy started ghosting us. And then randomly one morning we woke up. It was like, hey, we got a contract signed. What the hell?
Yeah.
He thought he was signing an agreement with somebody else.
Yeah.
We called him. Was like, hey, what's going on, man? You just signed our agreement. And we went through the whole process. He was a chiropractor or something like that. And he was kind of a jackhead. He tried to back out at the end of closing, and I was like, no, dude, like, you're closing this deal. It's like, you're just gonna tear it down and build 4 homes. Like, that's not possible, guy. Like, the typical seller stuff. So we closed on a property December or into 2020. We finished all the property. We got it rented out. It was rented out for at least 3 months before we started in June with people. So we had a little bit of history there. Couldn't find anybody until later that year to where we can actually, make someone want to work with us. First person that we got to work with us wasn't really, communicating with us. Finally got an appraisal, and it came in at 180, which was, better than what we ended up doing in the end. Next appraisal came in less, and then the last appraisal we did, which was for a broker appraisal, which we thought was going to be way higher, ended up being at 130. We battled it up to 170, and now we're at the point where we have to make a decision. Yep. Do we list the property and try and sell it when we have tenants in it, or do we break down the deal and figure out what's our best as investors, right? What's our best cash-on-cash return that we could do here, and what's our best long-term play? Okay, so we put it on the board, and ultimately this is what we came up with. We could sell it right now, probably on the open market. We could kick our tenants out and pay them out and get them somewhere else, and then we could list it and put it up for sale for maybe like $130,000 to a cash investor out of an external state or something like that for at least a 1% return, where they don't care about using a mortgage and have to deal with everything we just dealt with. Or we could bring $42,000 to the closing table. Which is $22,000 a piece in order to close out this deal and start receiving money back, which at this point is how much per month?
$1,400 a month. So that's cash flow after all debt service, PITI, right, including tax and insurance and maintenance reserve. I mean, the thing's basically brand new roof, windows, new foundation, new floors, bathrooms. So it really needs minimal repairs. So we put a little bit aside for 20 years down the road, we need a new roof and a new HVAC or whatever.
Right.
But outside of that, we're cash flowing between the two of us $1,400 a month. So on that 40, well, if you break it down even further, that $21K investment, we're getting $700 a month.
Right.
Cash flow.
$700 a piece a month cash flow. So if you do the math on that, if I were to do it on my phone real quick, just so you guys even know, if you don't know how to do cash on cash return. All right, so we're not using the camera no more. It overheated. We're in Florida, right? So basically, we're making $8,400 a year a piece for the investment that we each put to the table to close this deal, which was $22,000, which equates to be a 38% return annually on our money, right? Or over the course of the term to get our money back. So it's going to take us about 2.5, 3 years to get back our initial investment, and from there it's infinite return, and we'll bump rates up, and we'll be making roughly between $700 and $900 a month within the next 3 years a month thereon after. And at 5 years, though, here's the kicker: at 5 years we're going to have to decide, do we refinance again, do we sell the property? But if you either way, if you do the math, then over the course of it, that 80 or that 22,000 after the 3 years at, let's say, $800 a month times 12 times 3 is going to be $28,800 in our pockets. Plus, if we list it on the market and sell it, there's the fact that we're going to get that money then, and we won't have to pay capital gains because we've owned the property for so long. So what will end up being is we'll be able to end up making anywhere between $28,000 in just cash flow alone. If we sell the property in 5 years, we'll end up making another $30,000 or $40,000 or so a piece. I think it's right around $42,000 a piece, roughly, depending on appreciation, in our pockets as well. So let's just say it's $70,000 a piece on this deal, Plus, for the last almost 2 years now, year and a half, we've been cash flowing this whole time. So there's that money as well. So, and there's the depreciation, yeah, which is another big factor. Is we can depreciate. It's between $5,000 and $7,000 a piece a year off of this property as well. So that's actually money we're keeping in our pockets, which inevitably, when you're an investor and you're doing long term and you have active income, those are all things that are really important to account into the overall picture of the deal, right? Yeah. So realistically, it's a $90,000, if not $100,000 deal a piece from this deal, even though it's been a massive headache and it's done. But here's the big thing, right, that we want to think about. When you go into a deal that's a multifamily with only 2 units and it's not a commercial property, but it's got to be a commercial loan, you got to break down the deal, and maybe before you even buy the property, reach out to some commercial brokers and see how they look at the deal. See how they picture it from an investment perspective for them, because they're investing in you and the property when they loan you money. If you were a cash buyer, it wouldn't even be a factor you got to think about. You would literally just do cash on cash return. $2,300 a month, which would be insane. $165,000, right? Or 2,300 times 12 divided by 165,000. It'd be a 17% cash on cash return. You would have your money back. 165,000 divided by 2,300. You'd have your money back in six years. That'd be an amazing deal. Imagine this. Imagine you had $165,000 to buy this property in the very beginning. You buy the property with it, and in 6 years you had all your money back, and now you're making $2,300 a month in cash flow forever. Plus the property's worth $250,000. You know,
and here's the thing, guys. You got to remember, you got to put your money somewhere. If you're wholesaling, or if you got if you got if you got money coming in, you got to put it somewhere. Either it goes into a bank, it goes into whiskey and cigars, which is great, or it goes into a property to make a return. So if you can dump it in, we got 21 grand a piece. That we just sold some properties. We got some distributions from our company, so we dumped it into this property. Yeah, we wanted to do the traditional BRRRR strategy where we pull 100% more or more out of the property. Didn't work out, right? Didn't work out the way we wanted to, but there's worse things. Like we're making 38% a year cash on our money. Like, good luck doing that anywhere else with something that's physically backed by an asset. In this case, real estate.
Exactly. Anyway, we just wanted to share with you guys kind of the struggle with this. We had to pay. We didn't work how we wanted it to be, but we evaluated the deal, made the best decision, and because we're doing other things and we're making active income through our assigning of deals and our wholesaling company and our flipping company, we can reinvest that money into other stuff. So if you guys have any questions about everything we've dealt with, because I know we covered a bunch of things, a bunch of acronyms you might not really understand, but at the same time, this is the real shit. This isn't like fake stuff. This is a real deal. This is a real fucking situation. It's really us getting a surprise where we randomly had to come to the table with $22,000 a piece to be able to close this deal out, right? We wouldn't have been able to do this if we didn't have the money to do it. We would have been stuck in a pickle, right? So just if you have any questions, you have any concerns, you have deals that are like this that you got to figure out, comment below, and we'll chime in and we'll give you the best advice that we can. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Jake, for coming on and explaining it, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.